Okay, hi everyone. I'm actually back at the park. I think it's actually good to actually start recording now, especially on an off day. So I'm gonna make a new video about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, and hopefully helps those who are interested in it, and let you know more about the topic. I just took a poll actually on my social media account on Instagram, just to find out what my friends, friends or at least some followers think about topics that will be very helpful for those who are interested in it. The three or four topics actually. One of them was about the first topic was the character profile of victims of narcissists. The second one was the effects of narcissistic abuse and manipulation, and the third one was about the question as to whether narcissists are actually aware of the hurtfulness of their actions. That, and then of course there was a separate fourth topic, which was basically anything else that they would be interested in pertaining to narcissistic abuse or even just toxic behavior. According to the poll, at least among my friends and some of my followers, most of them were actually divided between the first one and the third one. I decided actually I'll actually make this first video for this week about the character profile of the victims of narcissists, because we have been actually talking a lot about narcissists and what they can do, who they are, and why they do the kind of things that they do. But I find that it's giving them too much attention, and sometimes it kind of makes us feel as if we are getting a bit too hyper vigilant. Yeah, hyper vigilant. We are gonna like get approach everyone with that kind of sense that they are out to hurt us. And instead of that, I was thinking that maybe we could actually talk a lot more about us, the victims, how we actually fall prey to narcissists, and what actually makes us vulnerable to narcissistic abuse and manipulation. Hopefully, with greater knowledge of all these character traits and personality traits, we would be less vulnerable or more astute to possible manipulation, and we wouldn't be victimized so easily. Before I actually start, I want to actually just have a disclaimer that I'm not blaming the victims of narcissistic abuse in any way, because having lived through narcissistic abuse and manipulation myself, by a narcissist, of course, or even narcissists in approval, I believe that we are not at fault in any way. But of course, if we were to ask ourselves the question as to whether there are any points in time when we could have just simply become more astute and to walk away, or at least to grey rock the narcissist in our life with some vague reply to make them lose interest in us, maybe we could have done that. So I guess that we can say that we are not at fault, but we are actually responsible for our healing and our recovery. So that's why I'm actually making this video, because I feel that if we were to be equipped with greater knowledge, we would be stronger people. Okay, so let me start. There are about 8 traits. The first trait of a victim of a narcissist is hyper empathy. Hyper empathy, the ability to feel what others are feeling, is in no way a bad thing. But according to Sandra Brown, who wrote this particular book, Women Who Love Psychopaths, psychopathy is actually a different pathology compared to narcissism or even narcissistic personality disorder. But the one thing that she actually noted was that the majority or even all of the victims the women who fell prey to narcissistic psychopaths, mostly men, obviously men, they all had that capacity to feel hyper empathy. So let's say that if the man actually creates a story like I'm the victim or what I've gone through, and all things like that. They actually believe the story and they fall prey. So that is one trait of a victim of a narcissist. So yeah, and then okay, second thing is that you tend to be a giver more than a taker. Okay, so in relationships, you always give more than you take. Okay, and that brings us to the third point for a trait of a victim of a narcissist. And that third point is you place others before yourself. So in other words, you feel responsible for others in terms of their well-being. Sometimes you even actually place the blame on yourself. You actually think, oh, maybe if I hadn't done this, the person would be actually not so unhappy, not so angry. We just place ourselves at blame, first above all else, instead of the other party, even though the other party might be the culprit. Okay, the fourth one is very important. I think that this is something that cuts across the board for all genders, whether male or female, for victims of narcissists. Okay, this fourth one, trauma or some major crisis in life factors in your life. Okay, why do I say that? When you are going through some trauma, or when you have gone through some traumatizing event, it could be financial loss, it could be death of someone whom you love, or just something that makes you feel really, really traumatized. You are extremely vulnerable to narcissistic abuse and manipulation. You tend to actually think that people are actually like you who are hurting, and then let's say in a love bombing stage of narcissistic abuse, when when the narcissist tells you stories of how they were being victimized, how they were being abused, whether it's true or not is beside the point. But the fact is that you actually empathize with them, and you because of your trauma makes you more liable to be believe in them, that they are the victims, and you actually believe them. Okay, so yeah, point number 4, trauma factors in your life. Okay, point number 5 is actually something that I don't think that most people would agree with, but I believe that is very true, because for those who have actually been in a relationship with a narcissist, you might notice that in the later part of the relationship, or even as time goes by, the narcissist will actually start attacking you for different things, like your looks, your intelligence, your abilities, your values, your morals, ethics, almost anything that they can kind of pick up as a kind of a ground for attack. So this fifth point that is considered a characteristic of a victim of narcissism or narcissistic abuse is that you are actually very often the opposite of what the narcissist attacks you and makes you out to be. So for example, if the narcissist says that you are worthless, you are ugly, you are disgusting, you have to remember, before they actually started attacking you as that, in the first place, they were attracted or interested in, or I'm not attracted, but interested in you, and you were the so-called apple of the eye, the favorite, before you fell off the pedestal. So you are very often what they attack you or make you out to be. Okay, so you possess very, very positive traits. Okay, don't actually think that you're worthless or that you're ugly or stupid. You are not. Okay, and in fact, most people who fall prey to narcissists can be really smart, and they can be really good looking, or they can be really well educated. Just taking myself as an example, I'm not trying to brag, but I have a PhD in English from a Canadian university, but how I fell prey to that narcissist was just that the ex-narcissist was just ridiculous, and I couldn't even believe that when it happened. So and after they discard, I did a lot of like soul searching, and I was just like blaming myself, but it goes nowhere. Okay, the sixth point, I want to actually mention is actually also quite important. It's something that I think most will agree, and that is that sixth point of victims of narcissists is actually weak boundaries. Okay, so when I say weak boundaries, it means that you don't really know how to say no, and you don't know how to actually just say reject someone when they make unreasonable request. You think that every time you have to give and give and give. It's actually a subset of actually this tendency to give more than you take. And then the seventh point is something that I think most of us will agree. It's actually trusting tendencies. You tend to trust people really easily. You think that people actually have you want to see the best in people, and because you want to see the best in people, you think that when they are telling you some story, they're not out to actually use you or to manipulate you. But we know that for narcissists, it might actually be worse than that. And when they're telling a story, how a sob story, they actually see you as a potential victim or someone to actually bait. So most of us fell for these kinds of tricks, hook and line. Yeah, we just took up the bait, and we get trapped. So so trait number 7, trusting tendencies. Okay, the last one is actually quite important, and not the last one, but the 8th trait or character profile of a victim of a narcissist is the fixer syndrome. What do I mean fixer? Fixer, fixer syndrome. So the fixer syndrome is actually a form of codependency. Okay, what do I mean by codependency? It means this idea that, let's say, I'm responsible for the other person's welfare. If I can actually make the other person a better person, or if I can heal, heal the person, help him or her to recover from some trauma, or if I could do this, I could probably be a better person. I could be, happier. We make our happiness actually dependent on the other person. I'm not saying that is wrong, but there are certain professions like teachers. Like what I'm doing right now, and also counselors, and then of course that's the other profession I'm actually going to venture in within the next few years. Or even psychologists and psychiatrists, or doctors and nurses. These professions actually make their life subsistent upon helping someone, and they are healers by default. But I guess that the problem is that when this healing tendency, this fixer syndrome, becomes overly dependent on the other person, we basically make the other person the center of our universe. That's when actually become victims of narcissistic abuse and manipulation. So the very obvious symptom of the fixer syndrome and narcissistic relationships is the idea that this mindset: if I stay on, maybe I can actually fix. I can probably him or her with my love. Basically, it's a very romantic. I would say, it's very romantic and obstinate idea that you can love someone into being a better person. But we know that in reality, this is actually within the domain of romance movies and dramas, and in reality, it doesn't actually happen that way. It's very dangerous. And so, okay, I'm actually recording this on a rush, not because of anything in my schedule, but because I actually have a 15 minutes limit on this recording function, so before it stops. Okay, but yeah, so these are the 8 points. And what's the point of actually talking about all this? I'm not blaming victims, as I said, but I think that it's important to realize that we are very much responsible for ourselves, our happiness, our healing. We cannot actually take on another person's pain, especially if you are very empathetic. Empaths are, totally different from narcissists. They're the exact opposite. But we have some trauma as well, but we didn't turn out the same way. Okay, if we could actually address this, we would definitely be able to become stronger. And I believe that this is the point why we need to know what the traits are that led us to be manipulated by them. Okay, so I'll just probably round this off and to say that, if you're really struggling, remember, it's not your fault, and you can always make your next day better. And of course, if possible, always plan your exit. And even if you don't get a chance to plan it and you get discarded just like me, you can work on your recovery and healing by finding people to help you. such as licensed therapist. Okay, so that's it for now, and I'll make another video in time to come. Thanks, bye bye.